Hey, thanks for joining today. This is an exciting video for us. We're going to cover the Jefferson County, Alabama tax lien auctions, and it's auctions plural because there are two Jefferson counties. And this is actually near and dear to us at Parcel Fair because this is literally in our backyard, and it's exactly where we got started before we had all these other states in the works. We actually started off with Jefferson and Shelby counties in Alabama back when we got our start. So again, it's kind of our home turf. It's one of our favorite auctions to review each year. And there's a lot of surprises in this year's auction. Some of the numbers are staggering, and we just want to show you at a high level some of the total values and total things going on, and then dig in and actually look at what's in the auction. So I'm just going to jump right in and get going here. I want to show you how these auction listings this year compare to previous years. So right off the bat, I can just tell you that 2023 has more parcels in the initial auction listing than any other year for both of these counties, Jefferson Birmingham and Jefferson Bessemer. That's by sheer total number of parcels. And I'll try not to say this too many times in the video, but I always want to remind you, when you're looking at auction listings, especially this early, we're over a month away from the auction, these numbers will go down by the time the auction gets here. But what we're comparing to in previous years, when you see 10,500 parcels in Jefferson Birmingham compared to previous years, those are the original numbers of parcels that were in the original listing each year. So those numbers all went down by the time the auction came, but this was the starting point each year. So we're starting off much higher this year than any other years since we've been tracking as far back as 2018. And again, that's for both counties, Jefferson Birmingham and Jefferson Bessemer. One of the reasons for this is that both counties moved to the tax lien auction system last year in 2022. Both counties had leftover liens that did not sell at auction that rolled forward into this year. Both counties decided to not offer those liens over the counter throughout the year. So again, all those leftovers are rolling into this year. But even without the leftovers, these two auctions would be the largest in our history, at least since 2018, that we've been watching. So it's a very big year for both counties and their total auctions. It's kind of a surprise when we ran the numbers here. So let's talk about how much lost tax revenue are these 2023 auctions covering. So the total unpaid taxes in 2023 that are going to auction for Jefferson Birmingham are $15 million in taxes. That's $15 million in delinquent taxes right now. And of course that number will shrink before the auction as people pay beforehand, but that's lost revenue for the county that they're trying to recover in the auction. Jefferson Bessemer is at about $5.4 million. So you add it together, you get a $20,786,000 in potential lost revenue that these auctions are trying to recover to get that money back into and essentially into the county works and the city works. So now let's talk about what type of properties are in the auctions. You're going to have the easiest way to split these up is you have buildings and improvements versus vacant land. So 72% of the listings have buildings and at least some type of improvements. And so we say improvements are assessed on over 10,000 of those properties, and most commonly that means a building. Could be something else, but it's typically a building. And this is across both auctions, by the way. We're talking about 72% across both auctions, 10,000 properties when you add the two auctions together. It's just easier to think about them kind of as one auction for purposes here. That leaves 4,060 of those are unimproved vacant land, or 28% of the listings are going to be vacant land. So if we break it out by zoning, again, across both auctions, they happen on the same day. They're basically the same county. Even though they are separate auctions, we're going to talk about the numbers in total here. 83% are residential, 8% are commercial, 1% industrial. And I do realize this does not, and 1% agricultural. I do realize that does not add up to 100% if you add 83, 8, 1, and 1. But the remainder are unzoned or unknown property as far as the county sources don't have a zone listed for those. So you can doesn't really change anything. You have a large chunk of these are residential, a much smaller amount in the other zones. So let's talk about the property value for the auction. This is the value of the properties that you would buy, in theory, a tax lien for these properties. So total auction value of property for Jefferson Birmingham is $1.1 billion. Jefferson Bessemer is $421 million. So that's a combined total of roughly $1.5 billion in property value that at this point could have tax liens purchased on them. The average property value is $105,000. That's across all zones, so it's kind of misleading when you think about it. I'd like to break it out for you by zone now. So residential, across both auctions, we have $850 million in property value. Commercial is $300 million, and industrial is $160 million. But if you remember, residential, it was such a large portion of this that I think the commercial and industrial property values kind of skew the numbers here. Industrial, again, is 1% of the auction, but it makes up $160 million in property value. And so let's talk about those averages again. Remember, our average property value is $105,000. Residential, the average property value is only $70,000. Commercial is $259,000, and industrial $790,000. And I really shouldn't go any further before I mention these values are county assessed property valuations. It's the county's best shot at an appraisal, but these are not up-to-date market values. An actual appraisal in real time today, in general, would be higher. Not always, but almost always, the appraised value would be higher than the county valuation. So what we're looking at is these numbers may very well be on the low side of reality. The actual appraised value of industrial, commercial, residential properties is probably higher than these numbers that I'm showing you. Okay, so we've covered this at a high level. Let's actually go take a deeper look now. So we're going to start off, we're using a tool called Parcel Fair. You probably know that because this is the Parcel Fair YouTube channel. This is the auction calendar for Alabama. It's filling out quite a bit for this year so far, but we're just going to collapse April and look at May because that's where these auctions are hanging out right now. May 9th, you'll see Jefferson Birmingham and Jefferson Bessemer side by side, and you can view properties in either one of these. They are separate auctions, even though I keep talking about kind of it's technically one county by a lot of regards, but from property tax perspective, it's two counties, two auctions, so we're going to look at them on the map separately now. So the first map, this is Jefferson Birmingham. I'm going to switch over to this map view to get better contrast for you. What you see on the screen are properties that are available either as tax deeds or tax liens, just depending on what color you see. When you see blue properties, these are tax deeds available over the counter, and the green properties as well. They're available over the counter to purchase any time of year. The properties in yellow are the ones that are in the auction. You can see if you click one of these, you get the active tax auction label. So, we're looking at 22,000 parcels available to purchase somehow, whether at auction or directly from the state. So I want to show you first, let's limit this down and let's take a look at auction only. We're looking at the search filters here, Alabama, Jefferson, Birmingham. I like to hit the clear filters button to reset everything below on these optional filters. And then I'm going to change this inventory type to upcoming auction, okay? Now what that does is we're going to take the 22,483 properties and we're going to pull off everything off of the map that is not in the auction. And so this is going to help us narrow in on this, I think it's 10,000 parcels roughly that we care about for the auction. So you can see the yellow properties starting to show up on the map. So bear with us here, it's 10,556 parcels, it takes a minute. So let's talk about what we're seeing around areas of town. So again, with the map on low contrast here, or high contrast, you can get a great feel inside the county for where these tax properties are located. Obviously, in the downtown Birmingham area, you've got smaller parcels where they've been drawn up for maybe small residential. As you move north or outside of the city, we're seeing some larger parcels. This one up here is 68 acres, next to one that's 40 acres. Here's one at 23, and then 38 acres. So we had someone this week ask me about, are there ever large parcels available? The answer is yes, they are. Here's a giant network of parcels up here further north in the county at 60 acres, 76 acres, 261 acres for this one on the Locust Fork River. So there are definitely large parcels at this point available in the auction. So you'll also notice that there's not really a part of the county that has nothing in the auction. We're looking in this area up Interstate 59, moving through Trussville. There's parcels pretty much scattered throughout here. You'll find plenty of residential ones, especially this being the suburban area. And then moving down, let's go down towards the city a little more. While we're on the outskirts, here's Leeds, very nice area that's under a lot of development. It's at the corner of the county. You can see this boundary here. It's almost out of the county, but you can see in the downtown Leeds area, moving back to satellite view, there are definitely some vacant lots here like that, and a few rooftops. But I think this is an exciting area in Leeds because, again, a lot of development going on there. It's a great place to own property if you can get it. Just convenient to the city and the interstate. And then moving, let's take a look further south. We're on the edge of Shelby County here, kind of the Hoover area. I guess that's really this part. Hoover's a nice area. A lot of people pay the taxes, but you can see there are definitely properties and houses that at this point would be going to the auction if they don't redeem in the next month. Some of these are really nice neighborhoods that are either at least late paying their taxes, or maybe they're not going to pay their taxes. So let's move. We're falling into Shelby County there, so that's not what we're trying to look for. Moving a little bit north, you can get an idea. Basically, this area near the mountain is where the city begins, where downtown Birmingham begins as soon as you cross this mountain range on I-65. So now you're getting into a very dense area where there are a lot of properties going to auction. A lot of people not paying taxes on these properties. A moment ago, when I had all of the properties, all 22,000 that are available on the map, this would have looked even more just riddled with delinquent properties that are available. It's just a very dense area where there's a lot of delinquent taxes. So these are some of those home values that would be lower as well. Total value on some of these houses are in the $36,000. That's actually vacant a lot. $50,000. Remember that average of $70,000 on a residential property. These are the ones that are really driving that average under $100,000 for residential. So again, if you have an area you're interested in, this is a great way to do the planning for your auction, because again, there's so many properties. If you're looking at Fairview, you can just eyeball it and see which streets and which blocks are just glancing at it here, I can see some dense residential, probably rental properties here that are tax delinquent. And sometimes you see like this, literally the entire cul-de-sac is available. So it's just interesting to look and see what is in this auction, looking at it from a map. So let's move further north. I don't want to go too far, but here we are headed towards Adamsville and the outskirts like Graysville area. There's less development out here, so there's actually fewer parcels available, but you can see plenty of things that are in Adamsville in the suburban area that are still delinquent on taxes. All right, we're going to get moving here. Let's go to the northern part of downtown. This is an area, kind of the Norwood area, or the you can see the stadium and the Top Golf were built here. There's been a lot of development pushing north on the city boundaries here, And despite all the redevelopment of the area, there's still properties that are delinquent and look like they'll be going to auction. So Norwood's had a lot of redevelopment as well, and even with a lot of that, there's some dense supply of properties here. I mean, this really nice vacant house here on 32nd Street, it looks like. And incidentally, if you're on a property looking at it like this, you can have a few takeaways here. You can see there's one tax lien available, and this is a vacant property address. The U.S. Postal Service says that they are not checking their mail, so there's nobody in the house as far as the postal carriers know. It's located in an opportunity zone for low-income community. And most importantly, then the purchase options, you can see that upcoming auction button. When you click it, it gives you the date and time and place of the auction, the taxes due, and everything you need to know in these little buttons and links to take you through the process of bidding on this property. In particular, govies.com is where this auction will be. You can pre-bid on these properties and set your interest rates up, that your minimums and your bids up in advance. So when the auction actually happens, you're not caught flat-footed, if you will. So again, we're looking at this residential. It's a 1-3. It looks like that's an odd number. It's usually 3-1. But we're talking about Norwood again. So back to the map. Lots of properties, very dense. Again, biggest auction we've ever seen in Jefferson Birmingham in the last 5 or 6 years. Even some of the areas like Avondale, which are really well developed, redeveloped, I should say. There's properties available here, a much higher valuation, $270,000 on this one, but really almost every part of the city has something available in the auction at this stage of the game. So that's giving you an idea of what's in the auction. Let's take a look at Irondale too. We have a lot of tax investors in that area. So you can see just a scattering of properties in the Irondale area as well. Just north of I-20, some of this area, and then Ruffner Mountain, of course, on the north side of that, or west side, a lot more densely populated with delinquent properties right up to the edge of the mountain. So I think that's enough to give you an idea of what's in Jefferson Birmingham and the main areas of town. So I have another map prepared right next door in Jefferson Bessemer, so close sibling to Jefferson Birmingham. You'll notice I have the yellow and blue properties showing up here again, just to give you an idea of how dense these neighborhoods really are, with tax liens and tax deeds side by side. They're 7,000 inside of this small area. So again, let's go through and let's take out the over-the-counter properties by clicking upcoming auction filter. And now we're going to filter down to just what's in the auction and get some of that noise out of the way so we can really focus here. So this is Bessemer, the kind of the downtown area, which is also an area of a lot of development and growth. A lot of people like to think of distribution centers because Amazon is in the area right here, and growth because of the interstate infrastructure, where we have I-20 and 459 and some highways that really connect with the area. This is a great area for job growth and just in essence development. But funny enough, we talk about Amazon distribution center. It's right here, and whoever's holding the building is actually tax delinquent at the moment. And it's broken into 4 large parcels. 1, 2, 3, 4. And very high valuation on those for obvious reasons. But it's one of those where I would be shocked if that makes it to auction. But if it does, maybe somebody can tie up a large amount of cash at a decent interest rate on such a large property. Again, it will probably redeem before the auction, but just looking in that area where there's a lot of jobs and a lot of growth, you can see area just to the south where, this is right on the development line for these office areas. Plenty of vacant land here with tax liens available in this auction. So just moving on, Jefferson Bessemer also has some rural outskirt areas as well. This isn't really that part yet, but you'll notice this large area. How many acres? 124 acres here. Almost looks like a golf course, but I don't think it is. Maybe some potential there. Probably a future neighborhood being developed there one day. And so yeah, some larger parcels, 14 acres, and then 20 acres out here on the outskirts. Moving further south, again, large parcels on the border of the county. And let's look over here towards, I think you've got, yeah, I mean, kind of more of the same. You have some rural, populous areas that have some properties, and then right on the edge of town here. But that should give you a really good idea. And if you want to do further filtering, when I was preparing this, I did a lot of search and filtering. Let's take the search filter and look at only buildings and improvements. We'll shrink this down from 4,000 parcels and take it down to, let's see, 2,700 parcels. So there we are. There's still a lot of parcels with structures in the auction, even when you filter out the vacant land. So I hope this was useful for you. We have a lot of videos that show you how to use Parcel Fair or do property research in much more depth. This was just to talk about these specific auctions. We may do an update video if the numbers change a lot between now and May 9th when the auction happens. But otherwise, I think this is good for you to do some shopping and some research on areas that you want to invest in. It's a big opportunity, 2 very large auctions on the same day. And now that they're online, they're a little more convenient. You don't have to be in 2 places at once on the same day. So give us a shout if you have questions. We always like to talk about this stuff. And otherwise, thanks for watching.